distinguished guests, honorable ministers present, the CTO team, good morning. Well, when I was requested to participate in this panel, of course, the focus was on the topic on public awareness and then enabling environment for digital transformation. But my slides are very many, and I got 5 minutes. So if you allow me, even as I present, I'll be able to shorten it by focusing on the key, or rather the messages I wish to share with us today. When you talk about digital transformation, basically, if you stop to reflect about it, you almost ask yourself, do we really understand what it is that we want to do to society? Today, Kenya is in that moment where we have a new government. It's come up with an agenda of digital transformation and anchored on 2 main pillars: digitizing over 5,000 government services and building what we call the digital superhighway. So every time I'm in meetings with the senior government officials, I ask them whether they really understand what they're just about to do. Not in the negative sense, but in the positive sense, that we seek to transform the way we live, the way we do our business, the way we experience life. And technology is going to be the center of that. And I was in a room with 2 ministers one day. One is responsible for internal security, another one is responsible for the digital agenda. And I challenged them, in this sense that, traditionally we've always seen the ministries of interior being profiled as the most powerful ministries in government. But as it's self-evident, a lot of that is going to shift to the digital space. So perhaps the minister for ICT is going to be the most powerful man in the house, woman in the house in the near future. So what we are saying is that we are seeing this transformation happening. My country has been going through different phases of this. You talk about digital infrastructure. Today, Kenya has got over 98% of its population having the potential to access internet. However, only 52% of that population experience the power of the internet. Why? Because they don't have the ability to access, not everyone has the ability to access the digital smart devices. Secondly, you look at the digital financial services, which is the anchor of what drives our economy today, the famous M-Pesa. It came into being, of course, through experimentation, but today is the backbone of how we run our business. And now, as government moves all its services to the digital platform, is going to be the anchor of how government really delivers service to citizens. But of course, we have to deal with the shortcoming of skills element. Colleagues here have been talking about the issue of cybersecurity. In a market like ours, as we've been experiencing evolution in the digital space, including cybersecurity, not everyone is aware about the importance of cybersecurity. So the question here is, you are undertaking a major digital transformation agenda, but significant number of people are actually unable to understand what that really means for them on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to their safety in the digital space. So an issue that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And in markets like ours, the other thing we observe is that you got the urban, then you got the rural. You got the educated, then you have the uneducated. New dynamics of how digital transformation becomes an issue on the positive side, but at the same time, with the risk of leaving a significant number of population behind. Why? Because of lack of awareness, affordability, and the ability to actually use the digital space. Now, maybe from a policy perspective, I just want to mention that I think from a national Uncle, I think for the last 10 years, I can say Kenya has really seen significant growth in this particular space, largely driven by macro level policy changes. That nothing is going to succeed unless the government of the day profiles that agenda of digital transformation at the highest possible level. So we started with our own Vision 2030, under which we prioritized ICT as an enabler of digital transformation. And we've been seeing that growing. And from an implementation point of view, we also saw that happening in the regulatory environment. We had to change a lot of the regulatory framework to enable private investment in that particular space. We ended up having what we call the unified licensing regime, as well as moving towards the market-based policies. We also, of course, put in place policy interventions to ensure that a significant number of people, those who do not have first priority when it comes to access to digital services, are able to actually have at least the bare minimum access to digital services or communication services through the setting up of the Universal Service Fund. Now, of course, as I just mentioned, the issue around access to digital devices being a major issue. At the moment, we're looking at incentives and frameworks that could spur the development of locally manufactured digital devices so that we have a significant number of our population also captured in that particular space to ensure that they're able to gain dividends arising from the digital transformation agenda. Maybe as I come to the end of my summarized presentation, what would I say are the critical elements now when we look at an enabling environment for digital transformation, and as far as public awareness is concerned? I think we're going to have two streams or two approaches. There's a policy approach, which is how you set up the law and lead that particular space. But there is a consumer aspect, which you have to pay attention to, so that digital transformation is not an agenda for digitally savvy computer gigs agenda, but it's a people, customer-centered agenda. You talk about digital transformation, the health sector, for example. Is it the number of telemedicine equipment that we put in place, or is the number of citizens who are able to access medical services in a more affordable manner? So you got to have this parallel approach to looking at this agenda of digital transformation, and not just for the short term, but also for the long term. Then there is an aspect of collaboration around the same. My country, if you look at it, we got two levels of government. We got the national government, then we got the local government. In the UK, we talk about the local government. In our country, we talk about the devolved government. So if there's no collaboration and coordination among the different levels of government, what you observe is that rules are disparate. National government being applied selectively when it comes to actual execution of the county government. Different counties implement different policies and somehow impact negatively on the agenda of digital transformation. So if we really have to succeed with this agenda, collaboration between the different levels of government become critical, and which also goes hand in hand with the standard or quality of service that is also expected at the different levels of government. So that is what we can say we've been able to observe. Then, of course, the last point I will say, collaboration on common thematic issues. Talk about cybersecurity, for example. It's not a private sector affair. It's not a public sector affair alone. It's everyone's really affair. It's everyone's agenda. And what we have done, of course, in our country, we have the national KSAT program, but we've encouraged private sectors to also develop their own independent intervention units. But at the center of it all, we have to collaborate at the different units to be able to identify risks around cyber threats, so that when we have interventions, those interventions are really across the board. Because cyber threats, any threat anywhere within the ecosystem is a threat to everyone. And the more we collaborate, the better interventions we actually can have when it comes to this, to the agenda of digital transformation. So I'll stop there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your talk.